Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And we have a strong Saturn timestamp. Okay, this is Saturn day and Saturn hour. So let's call on Deneb Algidi. Ascendant is 11 degrees Aquarius. And funnily enough, I hear planes, combat planes in the sky as we speak. So 11 degrees associated with combat planes, with high technology. But also it's a Uranian degree, and the midheaven is 26 degrees Scorpio, right opposing for Uranus when the moon is applying to oppose Uranus. So first of all, everybody get the Uranus talismans out. Of course, nobody has Uranus talismans almost, but I do. And I'm going to talk about random stuff because it's Uranus. So Moon applying to oppose Uranus is going to give us this sudden burst, emotional burst, psychological transformation because Moon is in Scorpio, and there is a sudden rebelliousness to the very own nature of our emotions. Moon Scorpio, nature of our emotions. And the way we do psychological transformation is going to get a little bit of a rebellion. This is scheduled, it happens every month. And so I just want us all to get prepared together. I'm going to have in hand my Urano Beta Persei talisman cream, which is inspired by the work of Caitlin Koppock with Sphere and Sundry. I was just aromatherapist having an argument with her teacher, saying how can we engage people into the essential oils without them going through intense crisis. And she said to me, I'm sorry, we cannot. They break down and then they come to us. They don't want to hear of us otherwise. And then I learned about astrological talismans. So first there was Yair Trubelsky, who told me, well, you can do stuff like that with astrology. Then I learned about herbology. And then I saw Caitlin Koppock doing these creams and butters and all these things with talismans, which is incredibly difficult, but that's the extra level of difficulty that I needed to start to apply things. And now I made the Uranus talismans. A little bit about Uranus talismans in general. My experience with them is the Urano Beta Persei. Okay, I don't prescribe you to start with that. go to the Koppocks. Go to the Koppocks. If you're a beginner astrologer, for astrological magic, two things I recommend: anything by the Koppocks and anything by Krasi Atasio with astrological magic. I'm still absorbing, okay, for this content. But my experience with the very fated talisman that I made with Uranus, anything Uranus, any election with Uranus, any talisman you do with Uranus, you set the intention and you release. The way it comes about is going to be Uranian, suddenly. And you can watch my video for the Uranus talismans. You could go back in the videos and you see, I wake up, hey, good morning, ta 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 ta, and I have the chart. Let's take a look at the oh, let's do Uranus talisman. It is it, okay? And that's how it goes. Very different from from how you usually do talismans. Very compatible with a person like me. And I've noticed that the combination, and here I added moon in Taurus, this moon Uranus, I would prefer the moon to be, well, I would prefer the moon to not be so close to Uranus, but right now Pluto is about to clear up our Cancer area, but then Saturn is about to challenge it. And but soon we will have Pisces, although Pisces moon is, well, how should I say it? It's deep, okay? But when, so that's the only thing I have to say. Moon Uranus does bring its own mishaps, okay, emotionally, but it will give you eureka about your relations with your mother, with caregiving, eyesight, and so on. But there is an unexpected emotional outburst, detachment when it comes to that. However, this with the fifth lunar mansion really assists in balancing the nervous system. And of course, Uranus is ruling nervous system. hard aspects with Uranus are excitatory for nervous system, and I found that to be useful. Another funny thing that happened, I dedicated this to abolishing practice of expandable children, and the snake goddess, which is Beta Persei, is the one that they sacrifice a lot of these children to. And I didn't know that. Of course, she doesn't need for that sacrifice. You can grow hibiscus, you can honor her in various ways. Definitely not slaughter children, definitely not mass rape or all these horrid things. It's the antidote to how you need to basically worship Beta Persei. But I guess humanity saw that bad things happen when Uranus, when Beta Persei is activated, or her eclipse is activated, and they thought that if they will give ritual sacrifice of this suffering to Beta Persei, they will somehow remediate something or get to control something. And I guess that's where it derives itself. It's completely bogus. It drives it definitely does ruin everything. Okay, so if that were, it doesn't give control to anyone, but it definitely does ruin everything. So if you do it like that, and that's for the transit, because the moon opposing Uranus is a hard aspect, but the moon will be trining, and the moon in Scorpio is indeed, moon is our safety, cozy spot. Scorpio is where everything transforms. Okay, Manavamsha has tropical Scorpio in the 4th house, and indeed I constantly transform around my house, around my housing, so much so that it's difficult even to contain me as Tenet, okay? Because I transform for the entire lineage. That's Scorpio, okay? And so it's not even from the place, I'm a very humble person. When I was in between houses, I didn't want to bother friends that I was sleeping at, so I thought I would pay, as much as I pay rent now, I thought I would pay for a bed in a hostel and it will be okay, and then I will just work on my business and stuff like that. Like I didn't think of myself as the person that needs much, but because I go through such intense transformations, I'm forced almost to be owner of estate, or such that it will not bother so much with the near vicinity. But what I do is actually good, and that is the half moons I was talking about. Right now we're in a new moon, and that is something that deserves an episode of its own. So the moon in Scorpio is ever so transformative and very intensive, and feels like it has to fight for its survival, unfortunately. But it also trines Neptune, okay? And this is a great time to talk about the topic of missing and kidnapped people. I have been addressing this around 7th October. I've been beginning to work to honor Neptune with painting. You can watch my Paint with Astrology or something like that during the Ukraine war, okay? And one of the things that came up, especially as I was kind of in between the first and the second season of Water Expands Upon Cooling, and the many things began to, that which is missing can be so many things, okay? That which is missing doesn't have to be someone dead, and doesn't have to be someone you don't know where they are. For example, I grew with my mom, okay? When parents divorced, I grew with my mom. And so father, I know where he is, but is also missing in my life, okay? And that is a part of what Neptune does, is it works in very mysterious ways, and there is some sort of almost dissociation with how it operates. Saturn in Neptune sign brings us a little bit of a reality check, and now at these times many people deal with missing people, with kidnapped people. I remember when 7th October just got in, there were before the invasion to Gaza, there was invasion to Israel, and then whole villages were slaughtered, And so you began to have lists, like when my grandparents came from Holocaust or after Second World War, we began to have lists, people looking for, we on social media, we moved the lists so people can find each other. And I was half joking about it and saying this is 2024 and we have the list of the missing people and the list of, we call it חיפוש קרובים, okay, to look for those who are close to you. And yes, I can imagine Gaza is, if you take that and you double that 100 times, then this is what Gaza is dealing with right now. But one thing that I've learned is the people that got missing, that got kidnapped. When I talk about long term, of course you want to get them out of where they are mostly, if this is like kidnapped and so, but they cannot go back, definitely not for long term, to the structures that they have been kidnapped from. It can be either the very literal house or very literal street. It can be as simple as a kid was walking to school and then they got kidnapped. They might not be able to walk this path and the parents might have to move, okay? Even for this reason. So it can be, if you live, like I'm half Dutch, and by us you had public housing, and it took very many years to register to public housing, and what you get, you maybe get to choose some, I don't know, and then you have to live in Netherlands. This is why I was not housed in Netherlands. You have to wait for it, and then you get the housing, and this is your house. You can ask to move, but it takes a long procedure. So people have very little to say about their housing, but they do know that they used to know that they have housing. Now it's no longer like this for many, many years. And but when you take a person that was missing and want to bring them back, or you find them, if this was associated, okay, they might not be able to return even to the very same house or do the things that they were doing. And that's something now, as I think, both as Israeli and as half Dutch, as Dutch, okay, is that the way we do housing in the Netherlands is, on the one hand, very important to have public housing, but on the other hand, there is consideration. We have a lot of people kidnapped and missing way before wars, as the entire industry of true crime, more so than in other countries, so it's just more awareness. And the people that do return and that are found cannot live usually in same structure, okay? This can also be with the structure in terms of working conditions, and this can also be societal structure in general, okay? It can be the school, it can be, okay, there are things that drive people to position. Usually when they manage, let's say, to kidnap a child or to kidnap a person, usually it's the person, if they don't come to a group of people that hang around jolly together and start kidnapping one of them, okay? Usually is the one that is outside of the crowd. So a person is in many cases already isolated in society before they go missing, and now that can be isolation that is internal. You don't always see that. It can be experiential and you don't always see that, especially now when we have all this social media and people. I am not so much like this. Maybe I'm not from the same generation, and I don't hold like a PR, team. But many people, they used to have their photoshopped picture and picture from this holiday, from that holiday. I even see lives of people in short, and people asking them, I'm sorry for the N-word, okay, Niga, can you show the real hotel, the real window for the real hotel that you are sitting in right now? And that's because it's photoshopped, okay? They want to see that they get money, then they show for the Photoshop. I think the Tates were very well known for doing that with planes. And so this is time where you almost AI a person's life, and it's very difficult to see for what internal state is. It's good camouflage for some people because it allows them to survive and to mingle within society they absolutely don't get along in. But the person is isolated in some way before the kidnapping happens, okay? The tending is to the person who has been, there was a sense of Neptunian thing to do with that. So Neptune can both isolate person, but can make them impossible to catch, by the way, okay? But it can also be for the other way around, that person is captivated or go missing and so on. So when it comes to the philosophies, when it comes to the structure of our worldview, Saturn Pisces, and the structure of our sovereignty, and the structure of innovation and entrepreneurship, when it will be in Aries, or even structure of war, those are things that must change to accommodate for the people that return. Now, the challenge is that the person is missing. It's usually a blind spot in society. Okay, if I went today and I asked for people, oh, you know, brother, can you give me some food? Brother, do you have a place to stay? Would you have this? Would you have that? Immediately people would want to help me. How? Let's call the police. Let's call the welfare. Let's do this. Let's do that. And all of these places would lead to dead end. Very dead end, okay? Or such end that you wish death. And this is a blind spot in society, because most people that don't have this issue to begin with, they're blind to it. Okay, they don't understand why a person needs to live alone, why a person needs, why it's so difficult for them with the working, don't they want to work, why they cannot stand like everybody in the and respect, okay, if they have problems with their feet, or all these things that to understand it's a blind spot in society, and to understand and to acknowledge that is challenging. And when they already go missing or already kidnapped, people do tend to blame themselves. What did we do wrong? What did we this? What did we that? But they always look at the wrong places. They always look at the wrong places. This, unfortunately, is the quality of Neptune. If you think about how many people are killing themselves because of the treatment they got in psychiatry ward or with psychiatric pills, we have the death toll is intense, but they will be blamed because they didn't accept help. But the fact that what is given to them and the treatment towards them is basically death-inducing. Okay, now go tell this to the family that was told by a doctor, please, this person will go psychotic. They can die if they don't take these pills. Now a person must escape for the family because the family became kidnapper. And they prefer to die, or to at least try to die. Most death both assassination and death, they don't work so smoothly. Most of them, they don't work so smoothly. Okay? So it's very challenging for the family, because the family is left with this notion that if that person only took those pills, like the doctors say, yeah, it's a bit difficult, but so that you will live. And this is exactly for the reason that they cannot find their loved ones, they cannot save their loved ones on time. And this is a painful blind spot that to tell it to their faces, they're either not able to hear that, and usually who would be telling it them? it would be a person that has some sort of experience with that, but is not complying with the people. So if that person is doctor, they cannot say it because maybe that risks them professionally. If the person no longer doctors, they say, oh, they're no longer doctor because you no longer practice medicine, so they took your license. And if that person is knowledge from experience, so you think about what exists in structure for people like that, they're not going to wear the same clothes, they're not going to have the etiquette, they're not going to have the impression that a doctor has on the family, and the family stays missing, perpetuating the death of their own loved ones. And there's really nobody to explain it to them in the way that is accessible to them, because to begin with, they think I'm humbling myself in favor of my child or my spouse or my this, and I'm going to a person that knows something about this, and I humble myself. I do other things that I know. This person knows about psychiatry, so I would listen to what they say for to save my child. I will make necessary changes. And they are all willing to do that, except that they are told to do something that eventually leaves no way but to escape into death of the person, because they don't want to be found. They cannot go back to the same structure that induced and created their captivity. You see why second season of Water Expands Upon Cooling takes so long to produce, because and it's true also for some cold cases, some murder cases, and I addressed this more than twice, so much so that I'm letting go a bit, because it takes a lot. It's a giant, Saturn is like, it's a rock from the sky, and it's kind of like it's the holy grail. It could be the holy grail, but it falls from the sky and it's a giant rock. Okay? And even if that rock contains a giant truth, it creates a little bit of a crater, okay? And it sways between, respecting for the people involved and the fact that this giant rock is falling. There's a telos to the decline and to the explosion, and there are fated things that must be, and truths that are exposed. Especially when the soul of loved ones is manifesting the truth, something inside is not sitting in with the truth, or something knows deeply, and then somebody fucking says that. And it's always at the worst timing possible, okay? And to the person who says that, they usually have been holding for some even years for that information. It's like, and then it just, it had to come out, otherwise they would already get sick. And sometimes you don't even know it, you just say it. And it's true that with Neptune there's always deeper depth to the ocean. Okay? There are things that are just, as I was doing my Lot of Fortune episode this morning, things that I realized about my own lifeline, and other things through which, or other lifelines through which I understood that. And it was a little bit both relieving and stoic for me, but also it's kind of this, you think about when you do certain profession, or when you look to cold cases, so when you do this and you go through internal transformation, then you learn things, okay? And then you cannot say everything. Not everybody's in a place where they can hear, and it can also be wrong. I mean, I don't know, okay? So that's that depth of information and psychological things. That is one thing that you understand about yourself, and it's like, oh, it's like that chart, that, and it's like, yes, I Have to keep it to myself now. um, and Neptune can also be those secrets. Okay, you think about secrets with people, take with them to the grave, or secrets that are just left of the dead, and the missing. For example, was one time when I don't remember in what context I went missing, and somebody who taught me astrology said they were looking for me and they found nothing about me but only my natal chart. Okay, or things that people suddenly find out about you when they are looking for you. Okay, they're just looking for you. So where is this person? Where has they been? What happened to them? And you cannot unsee a chart. So something stays, and Neptune is also energetic. You look at certain energy, certain case, certain person, certain thing, and you don't understand how this will play out in your life. Also, if you are the person that looks into such things, that looks into mysteries of missing people, and so there will be a lot of people like this in Netherlands, naturally, with the perfection of lot of fortune, 22-degree Virgo. I did not do zodiac release. I might in the future do it. But there will be new generation of cold cases, and true crime, and people that locate missing people, especially now, with what we are going through as humanity. For Palestine, okay, and Palestine has Neptune, okay, has Pisces, so perhaps Palestinian people could make use of this information. People in Congo, if they have a little leverage, then you are connecting with the energy of something, but you're also connecting with the energy of something that's missing from your own lineage or from your own society. Remember when I began to work with Sedna and honor Inuit society, and I heard about Sedna story, and I heard Inuits speak in their own words, say, we have problem of incest, this causes high suicide rates, we need to do something about it. Of course, the living situation, of course, colonialism doesn't help, and so on. And you connect with those societies and the depletion of food. And then I see for families and tribes in Negev area, which is desert, tell me 100 years ago you couldn't see the back of the camel because of the sugar canes, that they were so high. And you think, what happened? And I see eucalyptus trees, the place was a swamp and it's a desert now, and I see that there are still children, girls buried in the sand. There's still these habits going on for many, many, many years. It's not in one day. This depletes the soil. And the Palestinians inside Israel are the Palestinians that had no money to escape Israel. It's not that they were traitors, maybe some of them, but it's not that they were traitors. They had no money to get out, so they accepted blue ID. What could they do, right? And they're always the first to be shot, and they were mistreated in Gaza. And they're always the first, on 7th of October, they were the first to run, to save people, to run into the fire. And you see, people, a big car with Arabic men saying, no, please, no, don't shoot. We came to help. We don't come to kidnap. Because it's the same Palestinians, you understand? So, so just like you work with Sedna, then you have to say it, and you're not saying this to demote someone, but it's like you have to address this. Uranus releases that information. It's sextiles Neptune. It releases that information to the air, and indeed, when you talk about Neptune, we talk about those missing people, we talk about those kidnapped people, they cannot return to the same structures that they were kidnapped from and they were missing from. And there can be even a sense of dissociation about how far off we are in looking for them and in finding them. You think about the cases of a person. I've been seeing so many omens of these Nike shoes from the Peter Ad Vries Foundation. I remember I addressed this, and then I don't remember what happened, but it's so many Nikes. I don't know. And shoes, it's Jupiter, so something's there. I don't know. But you see, sometimes person go missing. You look for an item that they have, so either the passport or the shoes or the this or the that, and people really try to hold on to that, and sometimes that leads somewhere. Yet Neptune reminds us that but the person cannot go back to wearing these Nike shoes if for the structure around them, and we have to have a guess game because the person is not there to tell us, and they're not there to tell us because we're so blocked off. It's such a blind spot for us to bring this person back. And you see how that operates. Okay, I cannot. There are days where I cannot go without seeing Nike shoes. I don't even remember the case. I don't remember what I said. And there are places where I have to take space from what I covered. Okay? I have to take some space from what I covered because I'm also only human, right? So this is the way Neptune works with us. We need a deep sleep sometimes in order to have an awakening. Dream state, all these things. There really is a lot underneath all that, and when things are at the depth of the oceans, okay. So when we are as humanity dealing with masses of people kidnapped and missing, which we do way before the wars, that's how it became a pandemic. Another thing, it became a pandemic, became viral, Neptune, because it tends to go like this. Okay, the problem tends to spread itself around before it gets solved. Okay, just like scientific information or paradigm, they tend to have, at first they shush the information and they hide it on the block. And also we as people, okay, just like what happened to me with this Nike thing. Okay, I covered something, I don't remember what I said. Okay, and that days I cannot go without seeing Nike shoes, Nike shoes, Nike shoes, Nike shoes, Nike shoes, all kinds of colors. Also, they come in colors. The rosy Nike shoes. And I'm like, okay, there's something to do with the bloodline, with the Rosicrucian. I don't even remember who wore these Nike shoes. There was a fellow astrologer that said, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop with the eclipse. And I have no idea. I am in a sense of like a fog around this that that makes it difficult. I have to surrender and wait for the fog to dissipate because probably I've probed into something, but I have no idea what I found. And I cannot even be the person that dissolves the fog. And yet I see these Nike shoes, Nike shoes, Nike shoes, Nike shoes. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with you guys. What is the next step? But these Nike shoes are like, oh, it's like they're haunting me. Look at us, look at us, look at us, or whatnot. But I don't know. And I'm in a situation where I cannot take step. I cannot look back at the case. The case is something emotional, psychological, and I have no idea what it is even because I don't know what happened to them. Were they missing? Were they murdered? Did they find something about them? I don't know, okay? That's what it entails when you tend into these things, both in your life and when you're tending to these things. And for those who tend to these things, you know, you will see it in your chart. You will see it in your chart. I cannot make it up when I talk about lot of fortune, and I don't think about much, and lot of fortune is 22 degree. And my natal lot of fortune is not 22 degree. My lot of spirit is 22 degree. Okay, for degree of murder. It's like I cannot make it up, but this is also the quality of Neptune. The fog has to dissipate because it entails so many things to tend to, that our soul needs to be equipped, ready for the fog to dissipate, for to process the emotions, and grief and loss are also, but also miraculous healing, because there's hidden wealth there. And sometimes we're so afraid, grieving, guilt, self-guilt, survivor's guilt, okay, unconscious shame, and so on. But underneath there is miraculous healing. And so the fog of all these emotions slowly dissolving. It takes time, Saturn, but also Neptune is very slow moving, until we can see underneath, okay, the hidden wealth in that. And it can be miraculous healing, that can be channeling, that can be, just things that that coming from a place where you don't even. Okay, and there's a lot of grace to that, because you feel really helpless, and then there is the saving grace of something you once managed to tend to. Okay, then that's bringing influx of something. And there are places where you have to surrender your ability to tend to things. And sometimes it's the night of Brahman, okay, it's the night of before the creation of the world, inspired by the Thema Mundi work. And right now I'm waiting for the Thema Mundi work. And it's always a giant birthing experience when it arrives. It's a birthing talisman. I purchased it from Sphere and Sundry, and I was waiting for to be ready for the oil. This time I ordered the oil. It's the most consecrated form, and that was deep. Both the transits that we are going right now through. And I saw they're already preparing the cookie monster, so we're gonna have earth cookies and stuff. It's really nice. But the stuff that came out, oh my god. Because I tended to expendable children, and it's the lifting of the veil. It's the lifting of the veil with Neptune, and there's just uncovery of something that underneath our fears there's also tremendous wealth and findings and miracles. Okay, so it's both. It's both that sense of helplessness that we feel as society, and the sense of helplessness that those who are missing and the kidnapped feel, and the feeling that you are in isolation. Okay. Another memory I had when I was in between houses, I said, why don't people demonstrate? Why don't we have the tents and so on? And then I come to a car agency, and the lady there, she was trying to tell me, she says, I'm like Piscean and so, but I tell myself, because she's Jupiterian, it's very likely benefic of sect, for me not. And she says to me, I tell myself not slowly, I tell myself quickly, and I do things quickly, and I manage. But then other thing, which was of course slaughtering my soul, but I had to ignore that to raise my adult, and to ignore that. But then she was telling me, that they took away people who demonstrated again with the tents for housing, for this, for that, and they brought in people from Ukraine. Because they were the refugees, they put them in police armor. That's their only job. Then they get weapons, and then they don't even understand the language, and they kick people out. And so over there later, I would encounter again with the police, because when you're homeless, your police is like, is always coming around. It's not because of crimes. It's actually you're always somewhere, and they're always checking somebody can't do anything, and they just bump into each other. Okay. And so the police, I ask them about this, and they tell me, well, but they weren't registering properly. So I had to say on Facebook to the group of people who demonstrated, please, police is working stupid, but you have to register with this, and then they will let you demonstrate. And they did that, and they could demonstrate in the north. So that's what they did with being homeless. But the sense of, hey, why is nobody demonstrating over that? Why is nobody out in the street? Why is nobody doing anything? Where in fact it is not so. This is also something that can happen with Neptune. Okay, why doesn't anybody care? Why doesn't anybody see me? And it's not in fact always the case, or people trying to work for solutions that are going to actually sustain. And once they don't have these solutions, they try to again to work. And in the meantime, you feel like nobody's doing anything. Okay, if I go back to when I was in Netherlands, and a lady from the gemeente, okay, from whatever they have in the municipality, she said to me, go to immigration. And I show a picture of my Dutch passport. She says, go to immigration. And I go to immigration, I show a picture of my Dutch passport. He said, what are you doing in immigration? You're Dutch. But I did not understand, and she also had no... Yeah, she sees so many people and it's cold, and so everybody wants to get cozy with the coffee or joint or whatnot. And she didn't say to me, listen, you have to go to immigration. Don't show your Dutch passport. You have Israeli passport. Go with Israeli passport to the immigration. Here, if you're Dutch, you get no housing. Only if you're refugee. Israel, I don't know, but this is why I send you to immigration, okay? She had no time to explain that to me. She was just thinking, what is this dumb person doing here with the Dutch passport? Go to United States, go to somewhere where you get treated well. Do some drug pulling, what do you think I have to do? I also have to sell drugs in the street after I finish with this public job. What you think, okay? But I can't tell you that. And so this is exactly for what is missing. But the Neptune person is thinking, what is this dumb person sending me with a Dutch passport to the immigration until I fight to bring my Dutch passport so that I will get treated with respect. And then you find out that no, the respect was how you were treated up until now. Now you have Dutch passport, forget about respect. That was the days, okay? But thanks to COVID, thanks to Schwab, and some Magenta contributors for the WEF, I had housing. I had a shelter, okay? The rest of society had to be in lockdown. So this is the duality of pandemic, of Neptune. And you think about the people cannot go back to the structures that created where they were returning to, okay? This is where you got taken from a place, can't go back to this trend. When I came back to Israel, it was really funny because I was in an Airbnb and somebody paid for me because I had no money then. And then I had an argument with the lady. I think something was, I don't know, about for cleaning or something like that. And I think I took something from the kitchen or something that I thought is a part of what we can do. And I'm arguing with her, and she's, I think, Palestinian. And she yells at me and doesn't say, okay, well, to charge for this person, because they were also doing some monkey business, okay? So it was okay to say, well, to charge for this person. Because it was supposed to be by my money that I received from donations. But okay, anyway, I argue with her, and then she's Palestinian, I'm Jungblut, and I say to her, well, darling, you have a house. Because she tells me, this is my house, I'm not the cleaning lady. I said, okay, well, you have a house. She said, I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. And I go missing. Again. Okay? So... But this is the funny situations that you run. It was in northern Israel, in Haifa. These are the funny situations that you run into. It's like a movie, but when that movie is your life, is a bit more difficult. And with Neptune, it's also movie-like situations. Okay? Neptune is like a movie. It's a movie-like situations in life. And again, when you think about sometimes changing your story, changing this is good. That being said, there can be also restriction limitations to the ability to do that. Something is missing, and with Neptune it's difficult to diagnose what is this missing thing, because all the things you structurally think about, you have a blind spot about. Neptune is also the hidden funding. Okay, the missing assets, the liquid assets that one has or not has, and so on and so forth. So there can be really a lot of experiences that the person feels like it's flooding them, also emotionally, psychologically, and the feeling of you have to surrender things, but it's not even possible to surrender things. You need a safety space. Okay, and that is exactly what you had to surrender when you went missing or got kidnapped. And so that is the fog that needs to dissipate between solving a Neptune related cold case. Cold case is Neptune related for mostly, because it's something that has been unsolved for a while. Okay, that's mystery, this Neptune. Or for missing person. And to the degree that we can find out the truth, then we get the truth. But that degree is not always easy to digest, okay? And it requires, just so you know, okay, if there is mind control from afar. Until it happened to me, I didn't know that such thing exists. It happened to me by my psychologist. So okay, so this is the part where I had to say to myself, okay, I admit I genuinely did try everything possible to take a responsibility for my life and seek help. That was the help. Okay, and with a lot of Neptune cases, I want you to take into account the who will believe you. Okay, because with Neptune, sometimes people will believe you, because meanwhile when you were gone, there was pandemic, and there was MK Ultra, and there were whole villages receiving orders from Gaza or from Israel, I don't know, and there was alien invasion, and I don't know. Okay, but you're sitting there in some place or walking the street, not really knowing what is up, and missing information, and you think nobody, who's going to believe me. Okay, I remember a conversation I had when I went to my bank, and there was just a couple of some money to get out, and I speak with the person, and they ask me, what do you do for a living? And I say to him, every time I try to do something with my life, something happens. Now this was true way before COVID. That's how I got to be welfare case. But the thing is that because there was pandemic, and then there was 7th October, and then there was invasion to Gaza, and now there is Iran and Iraq, and I don't know where else we want to expand, to Mars maybe, and that I needed not to say another word. Where my entire life I was so isolated in this that nobody understood. I looked like a fucking alien working. You don't want to work, okay? So that is also how people go missing, how people get kidnapped. The cloud of that person already seemed out of touch with reality. Okay, well, in fact, and even for myself, when I was in Netherlands before Ukraine war, I saw a lot of people are going to be looking for all the people not, and it was better for person not to have even papers. And I was like, how come? Okay? How come? And when I see what is happening with the digital credit score, and I understand how people located, okay, for the Jews, the disabled, the Jews is a very liquid concept, okay, it's a fluid concept. Fluid concept is basically as it is sounding like, it's when you say a word but what it means has a lot of fluidity to it, okay. The word Jews was simply if you were resisting Nazi regime, you were Jew. Okay, that's very simple. If you understand this definition of Jew, then you understand why perhaps we want to tend to satanic ritual abuse and to infanticide in all indigenous tribes and not indigenous tribes, but to be anti-Semitic perhaps because under these regimes, darling, everybody is a Jew. And how would they locate these people? By documents. Here lives this so and so and so and so. Here lives this so and so and so and so and so. Now here is a problem, because when a person cannot so much work like me, they don't okay. So I can work, I can do this, I can do that, and fuck that ID, fuck that, okay? Yes, what about the elderly people? What about disabled people? I build trees, I build forests, what can I do? My grandfather escaped through forests, I'll build forests in the desert. So in the Negev, the sustainability of the Jewish people will be tested every day. So I built forests in the Negev. And so I reforest the Negev with the half moons. Who can know? So, but the way that they located the people is basically through the documents. Okay, you know where this such and such family lives, and for the documents, and everybody had to have a document. And then if they get on the train or this or that, but first they couldn't go here, they couldn't go that. Why? Because of something like a social credit score. If you are Jew, and again, it was very easy to be Jew in Nazi Germany. There is a party called ISPJ in Netherlands. It would be difficult for you to Google them because they're cancelled, and I cannot even advocate for not to cancel them, because what they say, they have all the insight, they have all the dirt on everybody. They have all the dirt on everybody. They deny what they want, yes, but they have all the dirt on everybody. And then they said you have to be 75% a bloodline Dutch in order to be in Netherlands. There is no Dutch. No Dutch. In all of these noses, that is 75% Dutch. Sperm count went down. They had to procreate with other species, people, I don't know. No such thing as, and in Israel you cannot even have DNA test. I saw there was Awakening of Spirit. She gave a reading and she used animals. She said, right now I'm receiving that omens from people like beings is not correct. And she turned to animals and she gives readings, and I'm looking at the reading, it's collective reading, and they say, I see that you are a reptile and there is another reptile, and you are both reptilians, but they're that type of reptilian, and they want for what's inside this egg, and they will not care for this egg, but they want what's inside it. And I think to myself, well, I cannot test the DNA as Israeli. Maybe I am reptilian, okay? I don't know. And it goes by species of reptilians. I've no idea. I need a nurturing and caring species of reptilian for my egg. Okay. I think I was a lizard and they were a crocodile. So so that was, and the egg looked like an eclipse. It's birthing. An eclipse was in my birthing house in Libra. Um, yes, need for egg need a caring lizard or reptilian that that is caring and nourishing. Okay, so that is really funny. But Neptune also rules that type of information where it's like, is it accurate, how to connect between A and B, and so on. And you have to understand it arrives because we're not ready for the information so much. And sometimes it's just the accurate information, okay? It's just like that person is reptilian this, that's reptilian that, mixed with humans. So this reptilian, that reptilian don't don't do well together. So you have to find other reptilian, okay? And that can be the truth, okay? You sometimes what you think is imagining is actually the truth. This is also Neptune. But when you go back to what I received, I realized that it doesn't sound reasonable that you shouldn't have papers, or that's better not to be registered. Um, but in terms of like, will they capture you to take you to concentration camp? It begins to sound reasonable. And they use the documents, okay? So that seemed like I was asking myself, what the fuck? If you don't have documents, no, it's organized crime, there's this, there's that, and everybody have to work for the papers, and what's going on? But when you think about this, and you can think about, I see my eyes starting to signal me that people want to use this moon Uranus for malefic stuff. So let's just return all things back to sender and decide for whatever divinity, God, to do its course. Okay? And anything malefic directed towards me, deflected. Ga. So, yeah, and that is signaling me that the window of Moon applying to oppose Uranus is open now. Anything more I have to say about this notion that we can't go back to the same structures that people were kidnapped and went missing from? I hear birds, the birds outside. That's something to consider. Whether you now have loved one that went missing, whether you tend to this in general, whether you listen to that and you're in a situation of going missing, then I want to remind you of the miraculous healing that is happening as well, and the fact that very likely people are just looking for you in the wrong places, but also they try to work through the right places as well. Maybe you are the person who already these Nikes. I don't know. I think that I don't know if they're live, but this is why it's so important. If you are doing remote viewing of people, please address their sovereignty, address their wishes and desire, and remember that they can't go back to same structures. Mostly, definitely not for long. Because if a person have history of going 1 day missing, 2 day missing, they will try to capture them for psychiatric ward, and they would prefer to try to kill themselves, and I said it's not working smoothly usually, even if successful. So And that is something to remember. And so for allowing yourself to surrender the fact that you seem to be unable to do anything right yet, and allow the opportunity of basically light to come into your life. And if you feel missing or this, and you have guilt or shame that you left or this or that, perhaps will help you that, very likely you listen into your intuition and know that it's okay to stay. It's preferred for them to worry about you and for you to have moments of joy doing something in an isolated place or where they can't currently find you, and change for the ground or change, then if it's available for you. And it is okay for you to enjoy, even if you're in captivity, to enjoy moments. You also don't have to feel ashamed. It's preferred that they will worry for you and begin to look for the right places and to begin to surrender for the ways that did not work until now to find missing people. It's preferred for them to worry about you a bit than for them to find you and think it's so lovely that you are here and you are suffering and inside you want to die, but you're not even telling them. So yes, I think I will end for the episode with this. Thank you for listening.